name's Chris Sullivan. I'm an amateur radio operator, and please don't hold that against me. This is also the first time I've been in a tie in almost 10 years. I'm here to talk about ham radio and why it's not about talking to pork products, even though we have an excellent example of an actual working ham radio right there on the screen. Amateur radio is actually a hobby that has been around for at least 100 years, and the FCC has a very long legal version of what amateur radio really is, and I'm sure some of you people are smart enough to read that, but you know what? That doesn't really matter, because what amateur radio really is about, it's about geeks playing with radios. And that's been the case since it ever got started way back in the early 1900s. If you're a geek and you're not an amateur radio operator, you're missing out. It's one of the few places that you are not only encouraged to experiment, it's part of what you're supposed to be doing. You are supposed to be about breaking things. You're supposed to be about learning things. When was the last time the government gave you something to play with? That's what amateur radio is all about. And I'm going to try to give you a few examples of some of the things that we're doing with amateur radio right now. It's here in Portland, in Montana, where I came from. A lot of you have this image of amateur radio that it's this old, dusty stuff in a basement. And you know what? Those people are still around. That's why beware the ham radio operator, because some of them, man, they're kind of scary people. I hope I'm not one of them. Wow. Well, what is ham radio? We know some of the things that ham radio is about. Some of you know the floods in Oregon. Amateur radio operators worked a lot of events there. Hey, it must be cool. People talk about it in Japan all the time. Most of the amateur radio equipment built is in Japan. But you know what? Homebrew is alive and well. For those of you who like the homebrew stuff, you know, building a radio like that on a tuna can, maybe we should call it tuna radio. But that's an actual working transmitter that I've built, and it's a lot of fun. You're encouraged to try different things, test theories about designs, hack, break your equipment, void your warranties. Please, void your warranties. So where do we go from here? The distant past. Amateur radio actually started doing the internet way back when at 1200 baud over amateur radio, and it didn't stop there. Actually, I was using the internet back then. Wi-Fi across miles, not feet. What if I told you that channel 1 through 6 in the Wi-Fi spectrum is actually an amateur radio band, and you're allowed to take homebrew equipment, use it on that band? 90-mile Wi-Fi? Montana Multimedia Network was a project I was involved in Montana, where we did a Wi-Fi link over 90 miles, mountaintop to mountaintop. When was the last time you did Wi-Fi 90 miles? Had a lot of fun with it too, I'll tell you that. It worked. 2 to 4 megabits over 90 miles. I need people here in Portland to help me build something like this for our emergency communications use for amateur radio here in Portland. How many of you would like to play with Wi-Fi at 90 miles? It's a lot of fun. Yeah. So Google's New Latitude, hams were doing it as early as the 1990s. We had GPS receivers and packet radio, that 1200 baud technology. We were transmitting our positions to other hams and onto the internet. And we still do it to this day. It's called APRS. And it can do more than just to tell your location. It can also be used for short messages. It all happens automatically. When I drive my car, it moves that dot. And it's all done over wireless. Funny that. All at 1200 baud. A technology that technically is obsolete. How many of you are still using 1200 baud modems? Please leave. Modern modem is 50 times faster than 1200 baud. Amateur radio is still using it. You know what, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other things that hams are doing nowadays. We're doing microwave and nanowave. We're doing coronal discharge communications. We're doing everything for portable communications with digital. We're doing all kinds of really cool technology. And ham radios are smaller and smaller. These radios do what that whole desk full of equipment did. And these are all small enough to carry in your backpack. All mode, all bands. They talk everywhere. They're actually pretty amazing. I'm kind of cool. There are some rules. You're not allowed to use ham radio for commercial use. Not allowed to say anything profane. And please don't be a jerk. That's like the biggest rule of all. We've got a lot of hams out there that are jerks. Don't be one of them, please. I beg you. It's never been easier to get started. They actually dropped the Morse code requirement from all amateur radio licenses a number of years back. All it requires is some basic electronics and operational knowledge to get a license. their licensing sessions here in Portland. If you need any questions, there's my amateur radio call sign, N0DOS. That's right, it's no DOS. And you can email me at nodos@nodos.org. Thank you.